everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing acrylic toes. So I know I usually show the full application process, but for today, I'm going to just only show how I do my application on the big toe. As you guys can see, and if you watch my previous videos, I never ever use nail tips. I don't use nail forms. I don't use press on nails. I don't do none of that. I literally built the acrylic from scratch. So what I like to do is place that first bead and build it with, as far as the big toe only. Like on on the rest of the toes, I would do kind of like a one bead, maybe a little small bead if I need to for a second bead. But as far as the big toe, I do that in two beads, and then I kind of like build the nail up. So when you're doing this part, of course you don't want to use a lot of acrylic. You want to kind of like use a little bit of acrylic and build the nail as much as you can until you actually know what you're doing. So even for this last bead right here, I didn't necessarily need all this acrylic, but the only reason why I did use a bigger bead is because I felt like I can kind of like still see her nails through the acrylic. So I went ahead and I did a bigger bead, and then whatever I need to do, I just drill off. So this is the part where I really want to focus on, which is the drilling. You see how her toenail right there, because she has a very small pinky nail, I had to kind of like make her pinky nails from scratch because she had no nail there. So that little gap, you never want to leave a gap at all when it comes down to acrylic toes, because that can cause a greenie. So I make sure I get super close to that cuticle area with this drill bit, and then I am using the fine bit, and this is from Kassy. It's like a round bit, and it actually came with my drill, but you guys can actually get that on their website as well, Kassy. So when it comes down to shaping and the filing, I like to get super close to the cuticle area and super close to the side walls. I get underneath the toenail. Even as far as like my application, you guys, I make sure my application is perfect, so that way I don't have to do too much when it comes down to the shaping and the drilling. So with acrylic toes, when you first lay that acrylic bead down, of course it's going to look thick, but that's where the drilling and everything comes in, because remember, I'm not using no nail tip, I'm not using no nail form, so my acrylic beads is gonna look a little thicker because I'm building the nail up from scratch, so that's normal. But you just do not want it to be a thick big old block on your client toenail. So you want to make sure it looks natural as possible, like the best way you can. And I feel like all of that comes in with you drilling. The application, yeah, but the drilling part is like the most important part, because you cannot leave no gaps. You want to make sure it's very thin, and then you cannot leave it too thin where once your client walk out the door, it's going to break. The toenail has to be stable enough for it to last them. So when I'm drilling, I kind of get underneath the toenail. If you guys look, I'm going to keep moving her toenails back and forth. And I don't just only use this drill bit. I use a different drill bit so I can, that's a little bit more skinnier, so I can really get underneath the toenail. Because this is a round bit and it's a safety bit, I can't really get so deep underneath her toenails because of the simple fact that the round is a round bit, but I can get super close to her cuticle area. So that's why I use two separate kind of drill bits. And you see how I'm just kind of like pulling her skin away from the acrylic. You want to do that so that way you don't cut your client. You want as much as space to be separated from the acrylic and the client's skin as possible, because if you don't do that part, the acrylic is going to be stuck, and then you're going to go in with the drill, and it's a possibility you can cut your client. So like I said, it's very, very important for you guys to go around that cuticle area and get very close, because this is a safety bit. It's not going to hurt her. Like, this is a fine bit and it's a safety bit. The reason why I don't use like a extra coarse or a coarse bit is because I feel like it's gonna start taking too much of the acrylic off, and because my application is already kind of, you know, thin, it's not on the thicker side, I kind of use the fine bit to smooth out the acrylic and to just take off just enough acrylic that I need to remove. I constantly go underneath the toenail. The big toe is going to be a lot more work to do because of the simple fact it is a bigger toenail. So you really want to make sure you focus on getting underneath that cuticle area. I'm sorry, the underneath the toenail. So this is the bit I was telling you guys. This is also a fine bit, but it's a lot skinnier. I get around the side walls and I get underneath. I do go underneath it, and then I go on top of the nail with the drill. With this drill bit, so that way I can see how thin it is. Just to where it's like in my liking. Some people like their toenails to be a little thicker. I try not to go super, super thick because it can start to hurt your client when they're wearing tennis shoes. But then I do have some clients that want them thicker and longer. And then I have some clients that want it super thin to the point like they want it to look like it's literally not there, like it's no acrylic there. So it's really all up to your client and to you as the nail tech of how you want to your work to look. Some clients just, they don't want people to know that they're wearing acrylic. And then there's some clients who you have to do a reconstruction on where their toenails is super short, and it's really nothing much you can do but to use more of acrylic because they don't have a full nail to work with. And then there's some clients that just come in and they don't need acrylic. Like this client here, she have pretty toes. She do not need acrylic, but she just loved the fact of the squareness. She liked that they super square and then they last longer. So it's really all up to your client. I go ahead and use a nail file. I'm going to be using a skinny nail file just because it's easier for me to use the short nail file. Sometimes I use my big nail file. It's an 8080 grit. This is I think 180 nail grit. I'm not sure, but I will have a link in my Amazon storefront. So I just kind of like file it and shape it to my liking. I go over the toes multiple times. I shape it with the fine bit, then I go with my other fine bit, I file it, and then I go with my sanding band. So the way I do toes, it may be different from you, but this is how I like it, and this is how I like to do it. So that way I know that I'm not taking too much acrylic off and I'm not leaving too much acrylic there. So I just keep doing it until it's to my liking. One thing I can say is acrylic toes is not for everybody to do, even as a client or a nail tech. Some nail techs that don't know what they're doing when it comes down to acrylic, please go take a class. Learn on yourself, practice on your family members before you start taking clients, because you can literally scar your client for life. Like, where I have clients that they are so afraid of acrylic toes because of what they experienced in the past or what somebody else said. So it's just like, acrylic toes is not bad for you. I just feel like it's all depends on how it's being done, how you take care of it, how you as a client keep up with the maintenance, and as the nail tech, how you're applying it. Me, I do not agree on putting fake nail tips on toes. I don't do that at all. I build the nail like you guys see I did. I stay away from anything as far as the nail, when a fake nail on the nail on a client toes. I have had clients that came to me and told me horror stories about them having a fake nail and they didn't build it like a acrylic overlay. They just put a fake nail and it caused them to lose their whole toenail, and their whole toenail had to grow back. That's possible with either if you do it like this or if you do it with a fake nail tip. But to me, I feel like when you put the fake nail tip, your client is more at risk of, one, losing the whole entire nail, two, greenies. Sometimes these clients leave these acrylic toenails on for a long time, and just because it may look like it's still on, it may be lifting in areas that me or you can't see, and you got a greenie. That's because you didn't come in 3 weeks like you were supposed to. It all depends on you. That's why I always say, to me, acrylic toes are not bad. I personally do them on myself. Not all the time do I do them on all toes. I really mostly do it on my big toe. And never had a problem. And I've been wearing acrylic toes since I started doing nails. So that's almost 5 years in April. So, like I said, I just really think it depends on the client. You got to know how to keep up with the maintenance. That's very, very important. And as a nail tech, I 100%, if you do not know how to do acrylic toes, do not go take clients and tell them, oh, you're going to do it. No. Practice on yourself. Practice on family members first before you start taking clients. So what I'm doing here is kind of like using a sanding band just to shape out my toenail, just to make sure it looks very even. Then I go right back with that same bit because I needed to just kind of make it a little bit more thinner. My client, some of my clients, well, this client right here specifically, she doesn't like her toenails to be super thin on the big toe, because bumping her toes and everything. But okay, I go ahead and I use the buffer. I use the buffer to buff it out really, really good, because I'm going to do her a French set, and buffing the toenails out really good is so easy for you to draw your French. So I go ahead and use the Melody Susie White gel polish, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw my French. If you don't know how to draw French by now, I have plenty of videos on my YouTube channel on how I do a French toenail. I had to I wanted to do her I usually do my French a little thinner, but I'm like, oh, I wanted to do something a little different, so I did it a little bit thicker just to see how it looked, and I actually love the way it came out. Even looking in this big toe, I did go back and shape the underneath the toenail a little bit more with the fine bit. After, I didn't even get that on camera, but yeah, as I do this French, I always kind of look at both toes, and if it doesn't look even to me, I just wipe it right off. I'm that nail tech. If I have to double look at that French to see if it looks like the other one, I just wipe it off and start all over, because I like for my French to look as even as possible. I'm still trying to get it to where it's perfect. Sometimes I have clients where it's like, oh, it's perfect. I'm not even gonna hold you guys, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just don't do it where I'm like, damn, I could have did that French a little bit better. I do that all the time, but I try to make sure it's perfect as much as I can, especially if I'm taking my time and my client not rushing. I'm not rushing, so I kind of do my French as as perfect. But if you are a nail tech, comment down below and let me know, how long does it take for you to do a French toenail? If you're doing it on acrylic toes, or if you're doing it on a client hand, how long does it take for you to do the French part? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I take a little too long on the French part, but then sometimes I'm like, dang, when I hear other girls that are like, oh, they took this amount of time, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't think I take that long. I don't even really know how long I take, but I don't think I take no more than 15 minutes to do the French. I don't know if I should slow down so that way I'm doing the perfect French every single time, but I don't think this part take that long to do. And then it's just a French, so if you don't like it, wipe it off and try it again. You already know how to really do it. You try to copy and paste exactly what you're doing. As you guys can see, I kind of draw the tip of the line first, and then I fill in the sides. So that's what helps me a little bit with our Frenchies. Draw that line and then draw the sides. And then when I'm doing the sides, I don't too much like it to look boxy. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but I don't really like it to look super boxy. I kind of want it to look more like that curved look. So I kind of do that little curve that I'm doing right now, just so it won't look super boxy. Like, I don't care if my toenails look super square, but the French, I don't want the side walls to look boxy, if what I'm saying makes sense. But it's all up to you, and it's all up to your client at the end of the day. If you still struggling with acrylic toes, feel free to comment down below and let me know what should be my next video and what should I focus more on. But this is the way they turned out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment. Bye.